Hello, all, and welcome to this month's Cyber Mondays with CyberVisionaries. Thank you all for joining tonight. We have a really good panel and a really good topic that we're going to be discussing. So first, I'm going to introduce myself. For those that don't know, my name is Tonia Webster. I am the founder of CyberVisionaries Institute and the one that's hosting this roundtable discussion. And tonight we're going to be talking about specializations in the cybersecurity space and why that is important. And to help us expand on that conversation, we have two really awesome people that are experts in their area, and I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Charnice Tatum.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charnice Tatum. I am a CMMC certified consultant and also an assessor as well.
Thank you, Charnice. And then we also have Christopher
Hey,
Okpala.
Tonia. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me on this podcast. You've been great. You're doing a lot of good things. To the audience that doesn't know who I am, my name is Christopher Okpala. I've been working in the RMF space for about 6 years. I'm the founder of Tech Woke Podcast. Tech Woke Podcast is a podcast where I talk to different people that work in tech to better help other people get into the space and make sure they feel comfortable with getting into the space. And I'm also a founder of RMF Academy. RMF Academy is a space where people can go to learn about RMF, people that's in the federal space, people that's just trying to get the understanding. So that's kind of what I've been doing. So thank you again.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Charnice. And just a little bit about myself before we hop into the topics. I am a PKI SME. I actually was on Chris's Tech Woke podcast about a month or so ago. So I know what he's bringing to the table. I'm excited for Charnice because she's bringing some things to the table. So this is an open discussion. Please put your comments in the chat. Ask questions, make comments, anything you guys want to know. This is the opportunity to learn about all these different areas that we're going to be discussing tonight. We're going to talk about how each of us got into this lane and where it has taken us on our journey. So we're going to start with the first question, and this is for all of us. And I'm going to go last. So I'm sure people are tired of hearing about me. This is all new stuff. So I'm going to start with Charnice. Walk us through how you ended up in CMMC. Was it a deliberate choice or was it a path that led you there?
I would say it was a path that led me there because I initially started off in blockchain and I wanted to then see how to protect the blockchain. So I got into cybersecurity and then segued my way through being hired at an MSP and them having a CMMC client. And from there, I just dove in and I've just been doing CMMC work ever since.
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
No, I'm just saying now I'm here.
You're here. For those who don't know what CMMC is, can you give us a brief overview of that?
Yes, CMMC, how I like to explain it is, it's cybersecurity maturity model certification. And it is for those companies those DoD contractors that it's for the companies that want to work with the DoD or DOW now, Department of War, in order to protect the war fighters. So that's how I like to explain it.
Okay. And what type of like levels and things like that are there associated with it?
Yes, so there are 3 levels. There's 1, 2, and 3. 3 is being the one where the DOW themselves will actually come out and assess your environment. Level 1 is you can self-assess for yourself. And level 2 is usually where people end up. and that can be very tough to pass. So it's best to have good consultants and people that can understand um, how to interpret everything and to help lead you to getting that certification the first time.
Okay. Thank you for that. And same question to you, Chris. How did you first get into RMF, and just kind of walk me through what ended you up in this lane?
Okay, I'll tell you. So I was going to school for criminal justice at Bowie State University. Shout out to Bowie State University. I wouldn't be here without them. During my time there, I was majoring in criminal justice. I wanted to become a lawyer. So one day I actually went to a court hearing just to listen to a case, just to see if that's something I wanted to do. I listened to the case and I realized that day I didn't want to become a lawyer, but I still wanted to finish out my degree. But I did want to transfer. I wanted to get a software engineering degree, but at that point it was kind of too late. And then I had a little imposter syndrome because I thought from what environment where I grew up, I had smart people around me. I just thought there was an anomaly. Like my father, he's an engineer, a PE, but I just didn't think that I was smart enough to really get into cybersecurity at that time. It was always something that we talked about with my friend. So after we continued our career, I became a background investigator. So once I became a background investigator, I started to understand that maybe this field is not for me. So me and my friend, we bonded together and we said, we got to get into tech. So the first thing I did was get my master's in cybersecurity. After I get my master's in cybersecurity, I started applying to jobs. I didn't get no opportunities. So the next thing what happened was I was working a project managing job and I was let go from that position. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, I'm not taking another role until I get my security plus, and if it's not in cybersecurity, period. So during that time, I made sure I got my security plus, but when I got my security plus, I still couldn't get a job. So the main thing I had to talk to my friend got into cybersecurity. So he talked to me about something called RMF or ISSO, and I didn't know what that position was. So I sat down with him, and shout out to Osasu. He's a great dude. I do the podcast every Thursday with him. But I sat down with him and he said, Chris, you might want to be an information system security. I said, what is that? So he showed me on his resume things you need to learn, like the 7 steps of RMF, implementation, STIGs. So from that perspective, I was like, I already did this in my master's program. So when I did that, I started putting that in my resume. Once I did my resume, I started getting a lot of, within a month or two, I started getting interviews. I would start off getting an interview with a recruiter. Then I'll go from the recruiter to the hiring manager. And then finally, I end up getting to a point where they end up hiring me. So when they hired me for this position, I got into the role. And those that don't know, and just so people can understand what RMF is, FISMA, this is a government body, said that the government has to comply to these rules. For example, you have to follow these controls, implementations to make sure that the system is secure so that the government system can be in the government space. So that's what RMF is, and we can get to it later. We go over 7 steps to make sure that we're compliant. There's different types of compliance. You got cloud compliance. You got risk management compliance. You also got CMMC is another branch of it. But that's kind of in a nutshell what it is. So when I first got this position, I didn't know what was going on. I got an ATO. I was like, what is an ATO? And then they were talking about vulnerability scans. I tell this story all the time. I was looking at the vulnerability scans one day. I was like, I saw all these Cat 1s. I said, who's supposed to do this? They said, who's supposed to manage it? I said, who's supposed to manage this? They said, you. I was like, me? And then after 6 months, I finally realized I was about to say I'm done with cybersecurity. But for whatever reason, something clicked and something clicked. And I was like, okay, I need to be the best. So I started working extra harder, coming in early, leaving late. And eventually I got into the space. I started doing well. I got in my space. When you get like a 2-year ATO, 3-year ATO, that's good. So eventually I did all that and I founded RMF Academy from that. So that's kind of what happened. That's how I got into space. And I'm happy to have been working in it for the last 6 years.
Nice. That's a great background. Great background. Briefly, I'll just give a brief how I been in cybersecurity, IT, before they called it cybersecurity. I was IT for about 25 years, graduated with a BA in management information systems, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Ended up getting a job that relocated me. Um, you know, I thought I was going to be there until retirement. And way back then, it was even, hey, everything is stable. And within 3 years, I was laid off. And I was doing sysadmin work. Didn't really know, it was a lot of OJT, on the job training. You know, when I first started, we didn't have the measurements of certification, Sec Plus and Network Plus. Those weren't heavy. It was a different time, I guess. I'm dating myself, so I don't want to seem like I'm super old, right? So it just was a different era. Certs wasn't at the top of the list to get into that space. So with everything that has changed over the years, it looks very different than when I first got into the field. But how I got into PKI was literally, I was in a sysadmin job, working on servers, building out servers, and working on Active Directory and doing all of that. And one day my manager said, "Hey, we have this project. No one knows about it. Do you want to learn?" And okay, since it's a learning opportunity, PKI, what is that? Uh, Go ahead and figure out what it is. So that was literally on the job. No one knew what it was. It was a lot of talking to the vendor and figuring out what this is, and what cat cards are, and security worlds and things like that. So that was the beginning of my long career in PKI, and it has taken me to so many different places. I've touched on so many different areas in cybersecurity that I didn't think I would be exposed to. And just over the last, I would say 10, 15 years, it has really exploded. So um, I think what I can gather from all three of us is it wasn't a direct path, right? It wasn't, hey, I want to do this, I know exactly what I want to do. It was exposure and learning. And a lot of times you learn on the job, you learn as you go. CMMC is so new, so there's a lot of, a huge learning curve with that. So I feel like, we're all, even though we all have different paths getting here, we all had the same, somewhat of the same journey, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I want to ask this question, and I think you guys already answered this with your background, and how you kind of got into this background. I know definitely, Chris, that was not linear. It was not a straight line. I think mine was more of a straight line, A to B. You were like, yeah, I got to do something different. So, um, so I would say being specialized, or going into a specialized career, what does how do you feel your how secure do you feel with the specialization that you're in? And I'm going to kick that off to Charnice.
I would say with my particular specialization in the CMMC part of cybersecurity, I see that it looks very well. Um, Being that it has been going through so many changes these past couple years, and it's going to continue to go through some changes, such as the ISACA taking over, how it is, how the information is dispersed to newcomers that want to come on in,
Mhm.
and the fact that the revision 3 is coming up as well. So there is a lot of learning that's going on, a lot of relearning and unlearning as well. So I would say with CMMC, I'm very happy that I have gotten into it when I did. For example, ISACA ended up taking over, and they're now the KCO. And with that, they raised the price significantly. It was less than $300 for both of your certifications for CCP and CCA. But I was literally a week before when I took my CCA exam, and the very next week it went up to, I think, $750. So
Now,
there.
for those, let me just interrupt you really quick. For those who don't know, what, because I think that's probably one of the questions, and you're throwing that out there. So I just want to make sure everybody understands the certifications that you have, and like kind of the terms that you're talking about, the Keiko, the CC, the certs that you are
CCP.
having.
Okay, so the Keiko is the body that actually is. Please don't ask me for the acronym, but it's the body that actually will go through to certify. Hey, these are the certifications. This is who can teach. You can be a instructor. These are the new assessment guides and everything. They will supply all of the information for the ecosystem to be learning.
Okay.
And the CCP is the certified CMMC professional. CCA is CMMC certified assessor. The consultants, those are the ones that would go the route of actually consulting with clients, helping them get up to speed and flesh out their entire organization so they are ready for that level 2 or 3 or 1 assessment. And the assessors are the ones that just come in and say, hey, let me look at your things to just ensure that you are aligned with NIST 800 171. And they take those steps, and CCPs and CCAs that are helping environments and clients, they can sit in on those as well to help the clients through that assessment or mock or gap assessment.
So you need those certifications in order to get into CMMC, correct?
You would definitely need a CCP, but as far as CCA, that just depends on what you want to do. I just want to be an assessor.
Okay.
And some people, they love the consulting side and helping people. Not saying I don't like to help people, but some people, they just genuinely enjoy that work a lot more than just assessing, because consulting is more hands-on and more technical. We can
Okay.
get more technical.
Nice. So it's good to know that there's actually two sides to CMMC. It's not just one particular thing that you can go down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question. Which now I'm trying to remember what the question was.
It's okay, I got you.
Thank you.
So Tonia, you asked a very good question. You asked about how is it beneficial to have a specialization in your field.
Yes.
I say that's a great question because I've realized, and I've talked to you off and off the screen, everybody wants to do everything in cybersecurity. They want to be a pen tester. They want to get into GRC. They want to be in cloud engineer. Man, they some overachievers, right? But the main thing is, the one thing I am happy about getting into risk management, I like having a specialization in risk management because I understand a lot of the foundation of cybersecurity. I understand how do you get software approved in the government? Why does it need to follow certain implementations? A lot of people don't have that skill because you have to be a people person to talk to different stakeholders inside the government. B, you have to understand the system and understand how it works. And then C, you have to communicate how you would implement that, not just implementing it on documentation, which is what we're used to in the RMF space, is just writing things down. Hey, we're compliant to this, but making sure that the engineers are actually implementing in the system, whether it's zero trust, whether it's implementing patches, whether it's making sure that a system is actually doing multi-factor authentication. A lot of people don't have that skill. Let me give you an example. When I was first getting into space, I only worked in the space for about 2 years. And in the government contracting space, I was making about 75,000. So once the contract ended, they needed somebody that was a subject matter expert on that system. They didn't want somebody just coming off the street. They want somebody that was in it. So I was able to get 6 figures after 2 years of working in cybersecurity, just having a specialization in that particular subject. So having a specialization helps, especially in the compliance space, because you get to understand what cloud compliance is. You get to understand what implementation is, risk management, just understanding the basics. And then you can take that information, especially in RMF, and you can use it to become a program manager. You can use that to become a CISO. You can use that to take it to a C-suite position. So having a specialization can help you in that, and then also can help you in the consulting space, because there's some people that just want to focus on one particular thing, and as long as you know that one particular thing, you can always make money from it, because people don't really want to have the people don't have the expertise in that one thing. So
Nice. And I will say that I think for me in the PKI space, it's been being, first of all, there's not many of us in this space, right? It's very small in terms of how many people actually do what I do. And then I would say, secondly, it's allowed me to skill stack. I've had the opportunity to learn things that, even though I'm not specialized in that area, I've been able to, skill stack on cloud security, DevOps, and learn all types of things that PKI has exposed me to. And I always say it's niche, but it's needed. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not niche enough where it can phase out. It's something that's always going to be needed. And I think in all three lanes that we're in, what we're doing, it's sustainable, which leads me to my next question. With being in a specialized career, how do you feel AI is going to change what you're doing? Do you think it's going to change? Do you think it's something that is sustainable with all of the AI tools and the way that AI is rapidly changing the cybersecurity landscape? So I'm going to start with you, Charnice.
I feel as though AI won't replace us, but it can definitely lessen the load because, especially with CCPs, the workload can be very heavy. I would just say there would need to be a certain kind where it's environment, like it's within the environment and not public facing at all. I'm not sure if you saw what somebody did with McDonald's, like chatbot, but they asked it a Python question and it ended up giving them the answer. So I think companies just need to be wary of what they want public facing with AI involved. And also, I'm not sure if it was real because I try not to trust social media a lot, but somebody's like, they asked a chat bot and they ended up getting into President Obama's account. So
Wow.
yeah, asking for email and password and stuff. It was crazy, but I would say that as far as like AI, just be wary of it. I wouldn't embed it too much in a client's environment. But again, that's up to the client that wants to pursue that or not. But they'll just need to make sure that they lock it down how they can.
And I don't really see AI coming into a space like CMMC where you would actually implement, because to me, you would have to have a human interaction. It's kind of along the same lines of RMF because it's assessing. So I would think that you would want those human eyes to go through those checklists, go through those cat ones, go through those vulnerabilities. And because someone could go in and literally program, hey, I want this to sign off on everything. So I would think that human interaction would always have to be involved in a lane like CMMC.
Yes, and I would say it wouldn't necessarily be on that C3PAO because I do work at a C3PAO. Well, and the MSP, we have a C3PAO side. It's more so the client environment that I would think they would want to um, start to develop AI capabilities within their environment. And also, there was this company that had AI. I think they laid off everybody and they had just one lone person there.
Mm.
And the AI ended up deleting everything because it didn't want to go back to correct something. And there's like, why did you do that? It was like, well, I just didn't feel like it. So I
It's,
just deleted it.
so you actually were wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
that's crazy.
But it tells you that because there's no governance right now of AI, it's kind of running rampant. And I think that now we're getting in that era of security needs to be locked down tight if you're using AI because it's unpredictable right now.
Mhm.
It's very unpredictable, and I think everybody's worried about losing their jobs, but in a couple years, they're gonna be worrying about how do I bring people back.
Yes. Generative AI is the one that is the most poisonous one, I would say, in my opinion.
Mm, mm. I'm gonna kick the same question over to you. Chris, how do you think AI has changed the landscape of RMF?
That's a great question. I know Charnice touched on it. I know you touched on it. The one thing I will say in the RMF space, AI, like you were saying, AI has so many risks. Since there's so many risks in AI, I see it as, oh, I have more job opportunities. There's more job opportunities. Right now in the RMF space, there's no set, they have a framework, but it's not like CMMC was originally, it's not the standard framework on how to secure AI systems. We still have to figure out how to secure AI systems. We still got to understand how are we going to evaluate them? How are we going to check on them? How are we going to create documentation? How are we going to know what AI to even let into our systems? And I know I talked to Tonia with you offline. We also got to worry about shadow AI. A lot of the times the AI don't work at your job. You want to take that AI and plug it into systems outside of your job. So I ain't gonna lie. I see that opportunity and I'm like, okay, I can make some money contracting here. I can do this for the job. So I see a lot of opportunities. There's nothing wrong with AI. You should use it as a tool. Like for example, I have a couple friends of mine that work for big tech companies. They tell them straight up, and this is something they actually tell them. They give them unlimited tokens. They say, listen, if you're not using this AI, then you're stupid. So what they're doing is they're using AI to automate a lot of the RMF process with CCBs, creating documentations, creating script, and it's knocking out their job and cutting down the time of doing manual things. So I would say, in general, use AI to the best of your ability. It's going to use it as a tool. If you can't use it as a tool, then you're just going to get left behind because they want things done faster. ATOs, they want done in probably 60 to 90 days now. And you originally used to take 18 months to do an ATO. They want it faster, faster, faster. And the only way you're going to achieve that is just using AI as a tool. Even if you learn AI as a tool to teach the government how to use it faster, you can use that as a skill too. I'm not scared of it. I think you can use it as a tool, but I will say AI is not at the level where it can take your jobs. Once we get to AGI, which we're still fighting to get to, which is basically artificial super intelligence, we get to that space, then we're going to have to worry about it. But just use it as a tool and just use it to your best abilities to make your job and make your job better. That's how I feel.
And I completely agree with that sentiment. I will say for PKI, one of the things I always touch upon is PKI is, and I think this is why a lot of people don't know about PKI or hear about it a lot because it's the intersection of cybersecurity and IT, right? So it's normally in most organizations it sits on the back end. So it's a lot of times it's considered infrastructure, but it's still security. You're still securing your environment using certificates, right? And something that you touched upon, Chris, is the certificate world is starting to see a huge shift and change
Mm-hmm.
where certificates were usually a year, maybe 2 years. They lasted that long, and then they were renewed. Well, now the industry is moving to a 47-day lifespan. So what that means is every 47 days, if you have certificates that are issued with third-party vendors like DigiCert or DigiCert, GoDaddy, or any of those big vendors like that, they're going to be turning and churning those certs every 47 days. If you don't have automation by the time that happens, which is 2029, your company is going to be hurting bad. And it doesn't matter if you have PKI experts, because it's not about the expertise at that point. It's about the automation. And so that's where AI comes in, and working with certificate lifecycle management tools like Venafi and other tools like that to build out those automation tools and scripting and things like that. So it is essential. The way that the cybersecurity landscape is moving, it is essential that you start using AI, but in a smart and responsible way. And I think, Charnice, some of the stories that you touched upon, explains the irresponsibility of how a lot of companies are using AI. They just want it to hurry up and get it done. Yes. But it's not that simple, because we don't have those safeguards in place. So until it's at a place where it's secure enough to just let it go, which to me, I think is going to be a while coming, there's always going to be human interaction, always. And for anybody that's watching, please drop questions for myself, for Chris, Charnice. This is the opportunity to learn, what they're doing. How do I get into this lane? How do I, grow my career? Because that's what this is about. It's not just about getting into the industry. It's about staying in the industry. And that's, a lot of what CyberVisionaries touches upon is we're not here to get you through to just give you a cert and get you through the door. How do we keep you in the door? How do we grow you, grow your career? So let me throw something over to Chris, and then I want Charnice to answer that too, which touches upon what I just said. What's a mistake that people make when trying to break into, I would say, RMF, that actually sets them back? What is it that they're not doing that's keeping them in that space?
Yeah, especially in the RMF space, and this is something I'm learning more and more myself. Originally, when you tried to get into RMF, all you had to do is say the 7 steps of RMF, get your security plus, say what POAMs are, and just understand that process. Understand you understand this 853, this 837, understand a little bit of FIPS, and that's all you really need to know to kind of get into the RMF space. Back in that time, I say about 6 years ago, it was a checkbox. You just need to check the boxes. And then when you get into the job, you just need to check the boxes to make sure that you're getting the ATO. So as I was getting in, as I was been in this space, I've noticed that a lot of systems are unsecure because they're just writing in documentation, this is what it is. Or they're writing about systems they don't understand. So what I will say, getting into the space now and to further get into the space, the main thing you need to understand is you got to understand how the system works, because a lot of people don't understand what the system works. Again, PKI, EPMS, these systems I worked in, WSUS. What does it do? For example, WSUS is a patch management service. How does it send patches? How will we get it to a CyberNet if that's possible? Who are the engineers that's involved? Understand when you're reading the STIGs, what are the vulnerabilities? The main thing I'm trying to get at with the audience is and then also too, when you're talking to engineers, you got to understand that and then be able to explain what are the security issues of what's going on. Break it down to them so they can understand. Like, for example, I was working on a system in the past. It was sending data to Microsoft. I found from looking at it, I was like, it's sending data to Microsoft. My first question is, what is the data? Why is it sending to Microsoft? What are some things we can put in place to stop it? So what I'm saying is, when I brought it to the engineer, they was like, yeah, just send it. I said, this is not no Cat 2 vulnerability. This is a Cat 1 vulnerability and I brought it and then we end up getting it patched up. We end up getting the ports put up. But what I'm saying is the main thing for people, you need to understand what implementation is, what the system is, and how RMF is going now. You got to actually become an actual engineer because, like Tonia was explaining earlier in the podcast, automation is key. Like she was saying to certs, 47 days for a cert, that's crazy to me. Because sometimes you're gonna deal with legacy systems that you gotta wait till this, you gotta wait till it dies before you can move it until it can move on. So that's crazy. Like, same thing with RMF. You got to learn about what cloud is. Just know the basics. Know about AWS.
Mm-hmm.
Know about cloud native tools like CloudTrail, CloudWatch. Just know the basics. Understand what inheritance was. What is the infrastructure? Is it a platform as a service, infrastructure as a service? You got to understand these things because you got to understand the whole technology, and then you got to dive in and to see how you can automate the process. And like somebody was telling me earlier, use AI. Talk to AI. Make sure you understand the basics. Use AI to help come up with labs and ways you can automate it, and then use it to actually implement it with your system, and you'll look like a whole genius. But automation is key.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love, hey, make AI and you look like a genius. I love that.
Yes.
Charnice, same question. What's a mistake that people make trying to break into CMMC, especially if they don't know, being that it's so new, you know, that's setting them back from actually getting into this lane?
Well, I would say a lot of what Christopher touched on is the same thing.
Mm.
And with me, I'm not that in depth into cybersecurity as you both are. So I don't really come from a traditional cybersecurity background. But working now with this MSP and C3PAO side that I am, the director is teaching me that to be a great CCA, a great assessor, and consultant, you need to really understand the systems that you're setting up and that you're going to be assessing these clients on. So get down and dirty with Microsoft studying. So they have free lessons on their website. So he wants me to go inside of Intune, poke around, go inside of Sentinel, poke around, so I can know exactly what to be asking these clients when the time comes. And I feel like that is really great and sound advice. So you can know what to look for. And yes, I would say that Christopher touched on a lot of those different things, and they both coincide.
I love that because you guys are saying what I've been saying about people getting into not just a specialized area, but getting into cybersecurity. I think I want to say several years ago, probably during the pandemic, cybersecurity really blew up, and people were being told, "Go get your certs, you'll get a job." And maybe that was true in the beginning.
That was me.
Yeah.
Because vet tech took over, and the government was offering veterans a way into cybersecurity because they saw that there was a need.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of those.
And then what happened after you got your certs?
I got a job pretty much in the next 3 weeks with the MSP.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew I had no knowledge of anything, but they was like, hey, you got all these certs. Why do you want to work here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I mean, I need a job. I was unemployed for over a year and a half. Changing from what I did in the Marine Corps from, how can I forget it? Supply chain management. I was doing supply chain management for years, trying to switch over or at least get a job within that field, and nothing stuck, nothing worked. Nobody cared about my degree or anything that I've done. So I was like, you know what? Maybe cybersecurity is what I need. And I was dabbling a little bit into blockchain as well, but that really catapulted me.
But I do think that even with the certs, people still need foundational skills.
Yes.
I think that's what's missing. You know, a lot of people go out and get these certifications, Sec Plus, Network Plus, and they're great to have because they do get you in the door, like you said, Charnice. But now, so many people are getting them, but they don't have the skills to back it up. So
Yes.
it's like, oh, okay, you got these certs. What else you got? What else you coming to the table with?
And I would say that was the hardest part for me too. But how I learned and actually passed those certification exams, um, the company that I went through, they took great caution to teach us the foundations. But when I actually got into the environment and started seeing how things actually work, things started to click.
You
But I
start,
can say that it is tough outside of school or a possible boot camp. It can be a little difficult to try to understand those foundations, which is what I've been trying to figure out for myself. There are some people, it's this woman that I came across on LinkedIn. She had created a website for CMMC professionals. I believe it's called Sector 170 or 171. It
okay.
basically teaches you those foundational things that you need to know for CMMC. And also for those that need to just get those foundations of cybersecurity, um, those websites like Hack the Box, Blue Team, all of those things are really good. But I feel like there's nobody to really direct on what to do. But the CMMC ecosystem, I feel as though they're more open and willing to help people to be like, okay, the CPN network, very great for people that's starting out in CMMC. And also, there is the Sector 171, just great tools to help you start to learn those foundations.
Yeah, and I will say, shameless plug, because shameless plug. Cyber Visionaries has a Cyber Foundations class for this exact reason, and it's about hands-on learning. Because going back to that question, what I see with people trying to get into PKI or just any type of cybersecurity lane, they don't have what is an IP, what is a server, what is a firewall. And you may not use that every single day, but understanding those key things, like you said, Chris, it helps you. You have to understand what you're protecting. You have to understand what you're assessing. If you don't know the environment, or at least have a general knowledge of the environment, how can you go figure out what's a cat one? What are you assessing that against? Um, so you know, great information. I know we have some questions. I want to get to one more question before we get to a couple questions, and I want to ask this for someone who was non-technical, no technical background. They came to you and you said, Charnice, how do you explain the value of what you do? Why is it important in a non-technical way? If I want to get into CMMC, why should that be of value to me?
Well, my reason may be a lot different, but how I like to explain why I love CMMC and why I really stuck with it is because I am a Marine Corps veteran
Mm,
and I'm not serving anymore. And this is the closest way that I can get to helping my brothers and sisters in arms. So I'm still able to protect them in some kind of way by ensuring that the information that they have, or the information that these companies are doing or producing for the government, are ensuring that it's protecting them.
I love that. Same question to you, Chris. What's the value in a non-technical way? What is the value of RMF?
Oh, that's a good one. You always got to break it down non-technical so people can understand the passion. And the same way I'm gonna communicate to you is how I communicate to many people in the government. So with risk management framework, we have systems out there. Like for example, I'm a shameless plug to Tonia. For example, PKI. PKI is a system that supports the warfighter. People have CAT cards. People have certificates. PKI is needed so that people can get into access to certain systems, sometimes weapon systems, sometimes get into even planes and things like that, just to have access. The main thing with RMF, we have to make sure that that system is secure. How we will make that system secure, we will go through the 7 stages of RMF. We will prepare the system, make sure that the system has all their stakeholders in place. Then we'll make sure that we categorize the system based on FIPS 199 to make sure that then we go back to basics, the CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Make sure that we categorize it properly so we can secure it properly. If it's at a high, we got to categorize it as a high so we can make sure we implement the controls as a high. Then we got to make sure we select the controls. Those that don't understand what controls are, we take those controls from NIST 853, make sure that we're properly based on the FIPS 199 and what the system is, we're securing it based on the controls and make sure that we're actually implementing, because if it's not implemented, then again, somebody can hack that system. Then we'll assess it to make sure we're putting that in place. After we assessed it, then we'll authorize the system, authorize it to make sure we're getting processed by the AO. And then lastly, we'll go into the continuous monitoring phase, because a lot of people forget about that. We got to constantly make sure they're secure. So in the end of the day, RMF is to make sure that systems are secure. So in the government space, to make sure that we can complete our tasks in the government. That's the main thing.
I love that. And honestly, it plays into PKI, because PKI is, in a non-technical way, if I was explaining the value of it, it's in the government and it's outside the government. Anywhere you use the internet, anywhere where you log in, you are using PKI and you don't know it. And the one thing I love to say about PKI, which is where that value comes in, is you don't know you need it until you need it.
You don't.
Because PKI is one of those invisible back end things. And if you don't have the expertise that can go in and troubleshoot it like that, you could be down for days. And it could be an expired cert. It could be it was issued off the wrong CA. It could be you didn't roll your keys over. It could be a number of reasons, but if you don't have that expertise to go in and troubleshoot that in a matter of hours versus a matter of days, that impacts cost. That impacts your ability to run your business. It impacts the ability for people to even just, in the government, walk into a door. They can't even use the CAT card. So yeah. When you bring it down to the simplest level, PKI is extremely important. But like I said, you don't know you need it until you need it. And now with PQC, which is post-quantum computing, coming, it's even more needed. So I think between the three of us, we all see that there is a growing need in our lanes for that expertise, for that value. People that understand what they're doing before they just hop into the lane and say, I'm ready to go, put me in, coach. Well, you got to know how to play the game first. And you need to know the basics of the game before you start playing. So, I think I love, everyone's answers and how we all, at the end of the day, we're all in different lanes, but we all have the same mission. It's about security, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get to a couple of questions. So Subrin said, appreciate the information you are sharing. As a cybersecurity student, I am heavily focused on building my own cybersecurity home labs. I love that. I'm currently pursuing my AAS degree in cybersecurity. Do I still have to pursue certs? I'm going to let everyone answer that. I'm going to start off. First of all, shout out to you for the home labs. That's great. I always say, depending on the lane that you're going in, you have to know what certs you're pursuing. A lot of people go out and get a bunch of certs and they realize they don't need them. So with the government, any job you work in the government, you have to have a SEC plus. That's a standard. That's a given. So Sec Plus is always going to be good to have. If there's one cert I would say go get, is going to be the Sec Plus. After that, it's then dependent on what lane you go in. And like Charnice said, what was the search that you need for CMMC?
Well, to be a CCA, you need a advanced level cert, and I have the CYSA, so that accounted for me. You can go and get your CISA. It's just they even have a level amount of certs that you need to have as well, because you can't have one without the other.
One without the other. Okay. So there's like steps in that you have to
Yes.
get. And then what about RMF? What's the cert path look like for that?
Yeah, so with RMF, usually how it goes, again, like you touched on it, Tonia, it's a requirement to get to Security Plus. After you secure, I've been having the Security Plus for a while, but what I would suggest to you, Subline, if you was trying to get into RMF, make sure you just pick what vendor you want to go with. For me, AWS, get a couple AWS serves so you can understand what the foundation of cloud is, so that you can be able to communicate that, especially in the GRC space. And then after you get some of them cloud certs, my suggestion to you is the next cert I'm going for myself. I've got to get my CSSP. The reason I have to get that is for management positions. To get those positions is a requirement. So I'm focusing on getting a CSSP, and then after that, it just depends. I might get a Splunk cert just so I can make sure I can vulnerability scans, but things like that. But the basis is a Security Plus. Get some of the cloud certs depending on what vendor you want to focus on, and then get on the management cert like a CSSP.
And I will say, know what you want to do, right? Come into, and I think that's where, even though the three of us didn't all have traditional paths into our specializations, I think now people have more opportunities and options than ever. They have the ability to sit down and figure out, where do I want to go and what do I want to do? What does that journey look like? So I think to make yourself invaluable, you have to decide where your interests lie. And you can always, the wonderful thing about cybersecurity is it is an area that always is growing. I've been doing this for 25 years. I promise you, I'm always learning something new. There is never a time when I'm not learning something. And it's just evolving. So the technology is always evolving. So you have the opportunity to stack your skills and to learn more things, but you need to know where you're going first.
Yes. I recommend looking at cyberseek.org. That kind of helped me orient myself when I got my first Certs Security Plus. So cyberseek.org is a nice one.
Can you spell that? I'm going to drop that in the comments for everybody.
Cyberseek, like SEEK.org.
Oh, .org. Okay, I dropped that in the chat for everyone. Awesome. Next question is for coming from Ray. I think this was something earlier we were talking about. She thinks the market is tough, but how you approach it matters. She herself pivoted in the CMMC space back in 2023, became an RP, and launched her own consulting firm. All right, yes, ma'am. Fast forward with deadlines approaching, the demand has increased for CCPs and CCAs. So I've noticed people who have certs need experience, and the people with experience need certs. It's a catch-22. It's like which way do you go? Because the industry is growing so fast. Even the people that have certs can't keep up.
And I would say specifically for the CMMC world that I am one of those people. I have the certs and need the experience, because how it is when I first got in, you needed to sit in for 2 or 3 assessments in order to be considered CCA. Well, in order to even take the exam and certification for being a CCA. But now it's like they took that away. And now there are people that's getting their CCP going straight to become a CCA, without that experience of having those assessments under their belt. So the issue within that space now is that these companies want us to be experienced CCAs, but they took that away. So how can we become experienced? So they're going to have to hire people and actually teach them what to do, which is what my director actually wanted from me. He was like, hey, I know you don't have any experience doing assessments, but that's what I'm here for. And we're going to have to teach people anyway. So we might as well go ahead and start bringing people on. Besides, I believe I had 8 interviews within 3 weeks with companies because, yes, very in demand, especially when you got that CCA. They were beating my door down. So I would say they were kind of apprehensive, like, oh, well, you don't have your assessment experience. I'm like, hey, nobody is going to truly have it at this point because there you could be a veteran and have all the things to become a lead CCA, which is what you need to be in order to actually lead an assessment, because you have to have 2 CCAs and 1 lead CCA. And with that, you don't even have to have assessment experience in order to be a lead CCA. So what then will you do? Are you going to not hire that lead CCA, although you need minimum 1 on your team? Or will you try to take the time to actually teach them what they need to know? Because I feel like you learn everything on the job. It's just, do you have the capacity to teach those people? And do you have a program in place to actually go through those motions to teach people? And that's what I like to do. So I'm learning while on the job, but I'm also documenting so I can help the next CCA that we end up hiring, or that next CCP. Like, how can I contribute? And one way that I did contribute while I was while I was studying for my CCA was I created a study tool and I put it out there for the CMMC ecosystem. And it was some instructors that absolutely loved it, and they passed it on to their students as well. So I just try to find a way to help any way that I can.
I love that. And this is why I love having people like you and Chris on and having these conversations, because it's not just about me. It's about, how do I give that information for the next person? How do I get them in the door and keep them in the door? Which leads me to this next question. I'm actually going to kick this off to Chris and Chris. I'm going to let y'all twin it up right now. As someone who hasn't been in the tech space for a few years now, what are some certs you recommend I aim for? I know we kind of touched on this to start my career in the security space. So I'm going to let you take that one.
Hey, Chris, we twinning out here. How you doing, Chris? When you're getting into the space, I know Tonia touched on it earlier. Let me just tell you a story about myself. When I first started getting into space, I got my Security Plus and started applying to every job known to man. The first thing I should have did was establish what role do you want to get into. Depending on your role, if you want to be a vulnerability analyst, you can just get a Splunk cert. If you want to be a Red Hat engineer, you got the RHCSA. If you want to get into Windows, there's plenty of Windows cert. The first thing I will establish, what career do you want to get in first? After you establish that, check out why go on YouTube, look into that career. Tech Woke Podcast, look into it. There's so many people that do the careers that you're trying to get into. Learn about the career, what you need to learn, some of the skills you need to do. And then another thing I would tell you, just go on LinkedIn, just type in the career you want to get into, reach out to those people that are in the space already and talk to them. What do you need to do? The next thing I would do is start doing projects. Go on LinkedIn, post projects about what you're doing. Like for example, for myself, I post so many projects on YouTube. I post so many projects on LinkedIn. I can explain how to create an SSP. I can explain how to test the control. Make it known that I have a skill. I interviewed a guy back in the past. He got a job without having any certs because he just posted the projects he wanted to do. And then once you get those skills, update your resume. Start practicing interviewing skills. And I get a suggestion to a lot of people. This is what I do just to make sure I can talk and explain things thoroughly. And this helped me out. Sometimes you don't have nobody to talk to. Get your resume, get the career that you want to get in, right? Put it into ChatGPT. Have ChatGPT turn at ChatGPT to an expert. Hey, I'm trying to get an X role. Interview me and interview me. So have it ask you questions one by one and just give it back in your audio and tell it to grade you so it can see if you sound like a professional in that space. So that's another way I tell people, just so you can articulate what you're doing in the space. But the main thing, that's what you need to do. Start from that step and slowly work yourself to the bottom. And no matter what you do, you'll always get in a role. That's how I got in a role. But just find out what you want to do first, and then the search will come.
I agree with that 100%. That's what I ended up doing because I was trying to leave my role at the previous MSP. And I made it my mission to write down everything that I did. I put in a pretty Notion doc and then I shared it out there and featured it on my LinkedIn page as well. And my study tool I mentioned earlier, I ended up putting that out there, putting that on my featured as well, along with any certifications that I had as well. So definitely put yourself out there so people can know that, like, hey, this person is working on that. We need that in this company. And I've gotten a lot of people to reach out to me strictly on what I ended up posting within a week's time frame.
And I'm going to give this quick example. Someone reached out to me to look at a young man's GitHub repo, and I was blown away because he literally put all of his projects, and the way that he used GitHub, it wasn't just in the traditional way where he posted, put things in folders, and it was literally IO. If you know what a .io file is, it literally took you to like a little website that talked about every single project that he had worked on, home projects, big projects. So one of the things I would recommend, in addition to LinkedIn and putting out your projects, put it in a GitHub repo. Another shameless plug, and it's okay. I'm doing a PKI cohort, and one of the things that we do in the PKI cohort is we do a GitHub repo. And I tell my students all the time, this is yours. At the end of this program, it's not mine. It's yours to take. So you have to be able to show that you've learned these skills, that you know how to do things like open SSL commands and build out a CA and build out a hierarchy, understand what a root CA is. This is yours. And you have to be able to show this. It's your resume. A GitHub repo is your portfolio resume. And I'm big on GitHub cleanliness, because if you're going to show that to an employer, you want to show that you have the skills. It may sound mundane, but the skills to naming conventions, folder structure, organization, all of those things are important in IT space, because you have to be able to keep up with what that company, how that organization does their business. So your GitHub repo, as small as you may think it is, how you organize it, how you structure it, how you keep it clean, shows that you care about your projects and you're able to follow a naming convention. So mentoring, ChatGPT is great, but I will tell you, get in front of a person that does a mock interview with you. They will throw you for a loop, especially someone that has been where you're trying to go. They're going to throw you questions that you're not even going to think of, because a lot of times interviews aren't just about the technical side. It's about the behavioral side. And can you connect with the people that are sitting across from the table from you? Because they're looking at you not just from a technical standpoint. They want to know, can you fit into our environment? Can you play well with our team? Do you have the same mindset as the culture of our company? So there's a lot of nuances that, it's not just about the technical. It's about what you bring to the table overall. Um, that's my spiel.
So, Tonia, I did want to second that with GitHub. Just even knowing how to use GitHub and get in there, I mean, that's a skill in its own. A lot of companies want to. That's a skill in its own. So I just want to make sure that what you're doing over there in your academy, hey, that's some good things because that's a skill in its own.
Yeah, GitHub, you would be amazed at how many companies, especially like in DevOps environments with cloud, that's how they push things out is GitHub. So having that base knowledge, that takes you to another level that you don't learn in exams. You don't learn on, taking exams and things like that. So um I know we're a little over, so I'm going to wind this down. I want to give uh, Chris and Charnice the opportunity to close us out with any last thoughts, just about where you are in your journey, where you're looking to go, and any advice that you have to give.
I'll go first. So where I am in my journey is I feel like I'm still on that front end part and I'm slowly picking up. Um, so I would say, hey, if you know that you want to get into CMMC, go ahead and do it. And you're not behind. There's always people coming in every single day saying, hey, we heard that we need to be CMMC compliant. What does that mean? It's going to always be those companies, at least for the next 3 years, that's like that. And it's slowly rolling out. So it's not going to be an overnight thing. Also, with the Rev 3 coming out, which is the updated framework that we'll be utilizing to assess clients with, and what clients will need and those DoD contractors will need to actually implement. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. And if you're considering even coming over into the CMMC ecosystem, we gladly invite you. It's like no mean girl energy over there at all. And I hope you understand what I mean when I say that, because we're all learning and we all have, and people have different interpretations, and we literally get on calls together and just talk about it. And I haven't seen any space like this ever. So I highly recommend looking into it if that's something that you're interested in.
So no gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping in CMMC at all. I can say that.
You might see me in that space because I'm very interested. Um, Chris, what the same thing for you? Where are you at in your journey? Where are you looking to go? And what advice do you have for anybody that's trying to get into RMF?
No problem. So right now in my journey, I'm at a moment in my career when I want to get to management. Make sure I get to that space so I can help mentor the next RMF professionals and make sure I do it the right way. Because when I got into this space, I didn't have somebody to explain to me how to create documents, explain to me how to understand documentation and implement controls, or how to talk to engineers and understand the compliance process without feeling that you feeling maybe you might not be in the right space. So that's where I'm at in my journey. I'm also slowly getting into entrepreneurship. I'm not fully getting into it right now. I think there's a lot of things that I need to learn and be more professional at. So I'm going to still work jobs, and then in my 5 to 9, still going to pour into that. So that's what I'm going to do. Eventually, I want to get into government contracting, and eventually, I want to get into conferences. I want to get into conferences that not only have a place where you can party, but a place where you can. I don't want to do party place. I just want a place where you can actually learn and mastermind and grow, so that you can use those connections, like how we're connecting right now, to grow with your careers in the future and mentor the next batch of people. And what was the last part of your question, Tonia?
What would you tell anybody that's trying to get into the RMF space? Just quick word of advice.
Okay, so if anybody that's trying to get into the RMF space, especially if you're in the IT space, if you for once, I'm talking to mainly the people that's already in it, because getting a clearance is extremely hard to do. Those that are in the RMF, those that are in the federal government space, if you're in IT, have a security plus, or even work different roles, RMF is not that hard to get into. The main thing with RMF, you need to get experience, whether it's in EMAS, technology, things like that. But I'm just to give a shameless plug. If you want to learn all that foundational information and have access to an EMAS emulator to understand how to talk to engineers, to understand the process that you can explain to somebody that you're trying to get recruited in, just check out RMF Academy. We do a course every week. Every month, and we have different courses that you can check out. And then if you want to have any questions or concerns, just reach out to me and don't give up. You can get into space, but you got to get to the right people that know what they're talking about. So that's it.
What's your link to RMF Academy? I'm going to drop it in the chat.
Oh, it's rmfacademy.io. I can send it to you. If you need me to. 1 second.
Got it. Oh no, I already got it. We there.
Thank you.
Yes, please check out Chris's RMF Academy if you want to learn more. I'm just gonna end it with where I am in my career. I've been doing this a very long time, and I got to a place where I knew I could come to everybody else's table. I was getting invited to everybody else's table, but I wanted to build my own. And that's where I am in my career. I'm building my own table. And it's probably the most fun that I've had in my entire career. Entrepreneurship is hard, but it's amazing. Networking with so many awesome people like Charnice and Chris, and just seeing what this next generation of people are bringing to the table. I have 2 separate companies. I have the CyberVisionaries, where I'm looking to just mentor and just give them the advice that I wish somebody had given me on my journey. It was a lot of on the job learning and a lot of mistakes along the way. And I feel like if you can give somebody the advice to not make the same mistakes that you made, you're putting them in a better place. And then I have Crown and Code, which you talked about, Chris, wanting to contract and get into contracting. And that's, where I'm going with that. So there's a lot of, I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that there's space for everyone. No matter what you want to do in this lane, in this journey, there is room for everyone. There is space for everyone. You just have to know where you want to go, because you cannot flounder. You will get eaten up. You have to know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, that's okay. There's people out there, LinkedIn, people on this call that will have conversations with you, mentor you if you want. I think mentorship is one of the best things you can get in this space, is talking to someone who's been where you're going and guiding you, because it's hard out here. It's harder now than when I got in this space, and it's difficult, and sometimes it can be very depressing. But we have to be able to help one another. And I love how all of us, are in this space where we're not just walking it alone. We're walking it together. And if you want something bigger, want something more, you have to put yourself out there and initiate those conversations to do that. So I want to thank Charnice and Chris so much for being on here. You guys are amazing. Once a month, we do these roundtable discussions. Next month, we already have a topic picked out, so I'm just going to throw it out there. We're going to be talking about resumes and the ATS system and why it's important. Basically, you gotta stay ready. If you're not ready, you're not going to make it. So what does that look like to be ready? Interviewing skills, resume writing, understanding the AI system, the ATS system with resume writing, so you don't get caught up writing a resume where you can't even speak to it on an interview. So that's what we have. Some great people coming to the table next month to talk about that. But that's it, guys. I really enjoyed this.
I just want to tell you thank you for inviting me. You're doing great things. You're creating a movement, especially with PKI and teaching people those things. So keep doing what you're doing, and anything you need from me to support, I'm always going to be there. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Charnice, any last words? I'm so happy you came on.
No, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to have had this opportunity to sit on a panel with you two. You both are visionaries.
I love
Thank you.
it.
Same
I
with you
love
too.
it. Yes, ma'am, on the wordplay. Yay.
All right.
Well, thank you. Y'all have a great night. And thank you, everybody, for joining. If you have any questions or reach out, I know somebody had a question for Chris. Please go check out his Tech Woke podcast. He has some amazing people on. He's on the YouTube channel. He has his own, check him out on LinkedIn. He has some great conversations. So make sure you go check him out and drop some, if you have questions for either Charnice or Chris, go check them out on LinkedIn. I'll make sure that their profiles are posted. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.